Well, the current economic budget,
National. Thank you. Thank you.
and then
Câu này thì bao có câu vừa nhiều tiếp theo không?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, Mario, we can hear you. Just give us some few minutes. Let's get the guys to come on board first, and then we can start.
Okay, cool.
Standardized that. Record exams.
Okay, guys, can you see me? Those on YouTube, I'm just testing so that just for you to know that it's working. Can you hear me? Those on YouTube, if you can hear me, just put a hi in the main group just to let me know that you can hear me. Okay. Okay, we just tested the device. Yeah. Okay. So let me check with YouTube if they can see. Good.
Mic check. Cool.
Good evening, guys. Let's give ourselves the next 5-10 minutes. We should start. Okay, we want most of your mates to join before we start. Okay, thank you so much. Over to you, Josephine. Can you start, please, Josephine?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the delay. I welcome you all to today's webinar, Get Your CV Right, Land Your Dream Job. My name is Josephine Asma, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. So let's set things starting out. I think Miss Alexandra Boating has already spoken, but then I would give her the platform again just to give a little introduction about Educate Africa. So over to you, Miss Alexandra Boating.
Thank you so much, Josie. It's really an honor to have such young minds, honoring our invitation to attend this webinar. In short, Educate Africa is a knowledge and skill transfer. We are mostly into tech certifications and whatnot. And from time to time, we do run some of these webinars for students. And aside that, we do have a corporate social responsibility whereby we kind of extend our certifications to students more on a scholarship. So simply put, that's what we do. At this moment, I have one piece of advice to you. As you already know, your facilitator or your speaker works with a Fortune 500 company, Yahoo. So he has wealth of knowledge in what he's going to talk about. He's worked with the big four, like Ernst & Young, Deloitte and Touche. So if I were you, if you don't have a notepad or a pen, quickly run into the room or wherever it is and get a pen and a paper. If you're a tech person like me, you just pull out your Evernote or your notepad or what other app that you use in taking notes. Just get it and then write down or type in whatever he's saying and make sure you don't miss a word. Thank you so much, Josie. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Madam Alex, for the wonderful introduction. So she has already spoken about our speaker for today. And as she said, he's US based and he's a product manager for Yahoo. He leads the design and construction of a centralized people analytics platform for the company. So I wouldn't talk too much about him. Our resource person for today is very well able. So over to you, Mario. Please, let's welcome Mr. Mario Bento, our speaker for today.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Can you guys see me? And can you guys hear me? Can't hear me. Okay, 1 second.
We can hear you, Mario.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
All right, great. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Alex, for organizing this event. And thank you to EDUC8AFRICA for facilitating this as well. My name is Mario Arthur Bentel. I'm happy to speak to you about my experience as a product manager, but for today in particular, I'd love to talk to you about the right way to write a CV so that you're able to get the tech job that you want. So something that we'll do today, which is a little bit different, is if there's anyone in the audience that is willing to share their resume with me, I would love to do a live revision of your resume as part of today's presentation so that way you'll be able to get a revised resume for free, and the rest of us will be able to enjoy and understand the different types of ways that we can make our resume better. So let's do this. If you guys are if anyone's willing to email me their resume, and if you're willing for me to go through your resume, I'm sorry, not your resume, your CV during this presentation, shoot a yes in the chat and I'll randomly pick someone. All right, so let's do, okay, Maria Samoa. So I'm going to shoot, so Maria Samoa, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my, I think I see you, hold on a second. Okay, so I'm going to shoot you a direct message, and then if you could email me your CV right now, and then later on during the presentation, we'll do this revision for everyone to enjoy. So give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So I sent you my email address. Send it to that email address, and then we'll use that. I'll get your CV and be able to work through it. So thank you so much for volunteering. All right. So let me share my screen so you guys can see my presentation. 1 second. Okay. And you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, please, we can.
Awesome. Great. All right. All right. So a little bit about me. So like everyone, like Josephine and Alex mentioned, I'm based in Washington, D.C. I've been in Washington, D.C. in the U.S. for the past 12 years. I took an interesting path to my current position as a product manager. Originally, when I went to university, I got a degree in economics, and I worked as an economic research assistant for the U.S. government. During that time, I got really interested in data analytics, and I wanted to do more within that type of space. So after my time working as a research assistant, I went to Ernst & Young. I worked there for close to 2 years as a senior consultant, but I really wanted to develop my data analytics skills, and the type of work that I was doing at Ernst & Young, I wasn't really getting those opportunities. So I quit my job to enroll in a coding boot camp. So it was this type of program. It lasted for 3 months, and I learned how to code in Python, and I learned how to do machine learning in Python. So it was a data science boot camp. I did that for 3 months. After that, I was hired by Deloitte Consulting, worked there for close to 4 years. And then when I was in that role, I was working as a product manager in some different ways. And then I made a transition from there to my current place of Yahoo. So at Yahoo, I work as a product manager, but I am working on the main product is a analytics platform that can help different people within the company look at the HR data, so data related to the workforce, measuring things like recruitment, compensation, anything related to the workforce, and provide analytics on that. So my team and I created this product. So definitely happy to talk and answer any questions about my time when I was in that data science bootcamp or anything related to coding. Happy to talk about that. So I know for all you guys in university, obviously you're thinking about making that transition into your first job, and it's challenging. And it's great that you're here today, and I'm happy to share my experience with you all. So applying for jobs can be challenging, especially when you deal with the fact that you have so many different resumes that get rejected before they're actually reviewed by a recruiter. So different companies, they use a platform called the ATS, is an applicant tracking system. And it's an AI-based platform that can weed out different different CVs that don't meet the criteria for the job that's being applied for. So, okay, recording in progress. All right. So it's definitely important to write your CV the right way. Another thing too is it takes time. So the fact that you guys are here today to learn these different tips is good, because it is a process to figure out the best way to perfect your CV. And when it comes to looking for jobs, it can take a particular amount of time. Also, on top of that, you also have a lot of competition as well. So on average, you have 118 people that apply for different jobs. So definitely a lot of competition as well. But another key thing when it comes to writing a CV is you want to make sure that your CV is just proper, like in terms of the formatting, in terms of what you've done, your accomplishments, in the font. You just want to make sure that the appearance looks great, because on average, recruiters don't take a long time to quickly glance at a resume. So you want to make sure that you're hitting all these different things. So although we're going to talk about the right way to write a CV if you want to get that tech job, I think I would emphasize that there are key things that you should be mindful of prior to you going on this journey of writing a better CV, and also looking for that job. So first thing you got to remember, it's a process. It's going to take time. And similar to that statistic that I shared earlier about how long it takes to find a job, it is a process. So don't be hard on yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be consistent, but understand that it's not going to be immediate that you might find that job. And you're going to have to do a lot of different applications as you go through this process, but you can do it. The other thing too, when it comes to perfecting and writing a good CV, is that you want to make sure that you're able to tell stories within your CV. And this is also helpful when it comes to your interview as well. And we'll talk about some of the different ways you can use story elements to write in your CV. And the reason why the story format is important is because it's just a good way to remember stuff. Think about the times that you talk with your friends or your family members about something that goes on. You use a story to relay that to your friend or your family member, and it sticks. So you want to do the same thing as well in your CV, in your interview, on your portfolio, all these different things. You want to tell that story. And when it comes to telling that story, there is a really good storytelling format called the STAR method. So it's an acronym, STAR. So the STAR method, the S stands for situation. So the idea here is that you are creating the setting of what's going on prior to you dealing with said problem. So I'll give an example. Let's say I am working as a pen tester. Now, if I'm working as a pen tester, maybe there's a situation where our company, the company that I work for, they had maybe a malicious attack or something like that. So that's the situation, right? So there's a malicious attack by an outside entity. Then we're going to move from the S with situation to the task. So the task is, what is the action, or what is the problem that has to be solved? So in this case, this malicious attack is coming from outside, and let's say it's impacting our network system and it's crashing at times. So the task is we need to fix that crashing, right? Then we move from the T to A, which is action. So the action is what you, in particular, everyone in this group, what you did to solve that particular malicious attack and to stop the network from crashing. So the different actions that you took, the different steps that you took to solve that. And then the R is the result, which is very important. And something that a lot of people, I think a good number of young people make a mistake in, is they talk too much about what they did and they don't talk enough about the impact, the result that came out of it. So if you took this step, like let's say you created this new computer code to stop that malicious attack, what happened after that? Sure, it might have stopped, but like, did it stop after 5 days? Did it lead to better customer satisfaction? Did it lead to like less crashing? Talk about the result. Now, in your CV, it's hard to talk about all 4 of these at the same time. So what we do for CV, for each bullet point you have on your CV, is you want to focus on the action and the result. And I'll show you how to do that. There are different ways to do that. Let me just take a quick pause. Okay, so my apologies, I just missed this question. So the difference between a CV and a resume. So my apologies about that. CV, resume, interchangeable. There might be some like small minor differences, but if you hear me say resume by mistake, I'm just talking about CV. Thank you, Andrews. All right. So now, prior to us building the CV, I think there's something that you need to remember about yourself and who you are, right? And that in mind is you want to think about you as an individual and you applying for these different roles. And what I mean by think about you is you want to think about a couple of things related to you. You want to make sure that you are your biggest advocate when it comes to the types of jobs you're applying for. You want to make sure that you understand who you are as a person, understand your interests, understand your skill set, so that you're able to reflect that very well when you write your CV. Hold on a second. Okay, recording. Gotcha. Yeah. So you want to make sure you reflect that well when you're writing your CV. I think one of the mistakes that I remember, even me myself when I was younger, is I was just applying for jobs and not really understanding or giving good time to understand what skills I have that actually make applying for this job matter, or what are the experiences I'm looking for, things like that. You want to make sure you understand who you are. What are your dreams? What are the things that you do well? What are your weaknesses that you're working on? Those different things. that factors and that matters. You might not think it matters for your CV, but it's definitely going to matter when it comes to your interview and the first job that you have and all those other progressions you're going to make in your career. So you want to make sure you understand you. And a good way to understand you, actually, sorry, let me backtrack. So hold on to the you part for a second. But I do want to talk about when it comes to writing a resume, what are the things that you don't want to do? So when you're writing a resume, you want to make sure that you are putting down like your task and your action. So the problem here, sorry, not task, your action, your result. So the problem here is that these two different bullet points don't really talk about the full picture of what this individual does. We don't understand their impact. We don't understand the magnitude of their impact. So these two different bullet points, they just look like responsibilities, and you don't want to write a CV like that. You want to make sure that when you write your bullet points that you're able to reflect on your skill set. Okay, gotcha. All right, so focusing back on you, right? And what are some of the ways that you can figure out more about you so that reflects well in your CV and other means within your career search? So one way is passion. And then second is your personality, right? So there are different ways to define your passion and express your personality. So think about the different areas of knowledge that make you excited and make you curious. What are some of the different I know most of the people here are within the IT space, but which particular things really engage you that you keep on going back to? That's important because that helps you to figure out what type of jobs you want to apply for and things like this. Sorry. So quick pause. Does the impact, David, can you elaborate your question? Does you have any impact on your skills? Oh, sorry. Does the you have any impact on your skills? That's a good question. Sorry about that. Yeah. I think it can, because if you think about the you and you think about like what truly like motivates you and what like excites you and what things you do well, I think you can gravitate towards those different skills that you want to like enhance. So yeah, it can impact the you can impact your skills. All right. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, gotcha. All right. So next thing related to your passion and your personality, you also want to think about like events that had an impact on you, whether it was a particular like class that you took or a conference that you went to or a workshop or anything like that you gained, some type of good memories, like use that as well. That's helpful within your CV. You could talk about experiences like that, but it's also very helpful when you talk to a recruiter and you also go through the interview process. Find ways to tie in the stuff that you're learning from other areas outside of your work. That also helps to define your passions and express your personality. And this is also very important when it comes to your CV, is talk about the different types of steps and means that you took to solve different problems. People are trying to hire people to solve their problems. So make sure that when you write your CV, you're doing that as well, that you're taking the time to write these different bullet points to talk about how you're solving these different problems. All right, so that's you, right? So that's part one. Now, part two is them. And what we mean by them is whichever company that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a role at a bank or an IT tech firm or a finance firm, doesn't matter. It's them. And the thing about applying to roles is, sure, we want this job, you want this job, and you're thinking a lot about yourself, but you also need to figure out and try to identify what are the different problems that that company has. And that can also give you some direction when it comes to writing your CV, especially if that company put out a job description, you want to use that different type of material in a job description in your CV so that it reflects, right? So that your CV is reflecting that you are the type of candidate that can solve the problems at that particular company. So you want to identify the company's business problems and that they face. What are the problems that you would face if you were to be within that role? What are their goals? What are the company's goals? And the key is like trying to use your CV to write these different type of bullet points that reflects on your skill set and reflects on your experience, but also talks about how you can easily fit in to working for that company and helping them solve their problems. So what are the ways that you can reflect on them being the companies? You have to research. And there are different ways to doing the research. It's about knowing your employer. So something that I mentioned earlier is about anticipating the needs of the employer. So there are different ways of doing that, whether you follow them on LinkedIn, you follow their social media pages, you look at articles where that particular company that you're interested in, you're referencing them, anything related to that. So find different ways of engaging with the employer to learn more about them. That's also part of like following their footprint. Another way to understand more about the company that you're interested in is conduct informational interviews. Let me ask a question. Do you guys know what informational interviews are? Put a yes or no in the chat. Okay, so got to know. Cool, definitely go through that. So actually, I appreciate that. This is good. Oh yeah, so the question was, do you guys know what informational interviews are? All right, so getting a lot of no's. This is good. So this is good because this is something that I can also do, that Educate Africa can do a presentation on in the future. So they definitely know about informational interviews. But let me just answer one quick question. I saw another one. Okay, I'll save that for the end. Sorry, Ezra, I'll save that for the end. But yeah, so informational interview is you, let's say you're interested in being a web developer, right? But you don't know all the different details of what the life of a web developer is like. So you have a friend that has a friend that is a web developer, and your friend is going to connect you to that web developer to have a conversation. So that conversation, you're going to use that conversation to ask them questions that will give you more insight about their position as a web developer. And you can also ask them questions where you get more information about what it's like to work at the company that they work for. That's an informational interview. So an informational interview is not like a regular interview, but it's an opportunity for you to ask questions to a particular individual that will give you more information about what they do and or which company they work for. And this is usually information that you might not find on a website or LinkedIn or something like that. So that's an informational interview. So we could definitely do a presentation on that in the future. Yeah, so that's them, right? So that's part two. Now part three is us. And the idea of us is taking, all right, so quick question. So actually, all right. So Lily, I'm gonna hold that question. I'm gonna be fair to Ezra because he asked another question before. He said, can you do a background search on the company? Okay, so there's an interesting question. So the question is, can you do a background search on the company to get past problems they encountered to match with your skill set? Yes, you can. You could do a background search. I guess by background search, maybe just like looking at stuff online, just reading more about them. Also doing an informational interview. That's a good way to understand more about the company. But that, yeah, you can, that's a good way to learn more about their problems. And then I will say, if you want to like match those skills to solve those problems, you could do that. But make sure you're also trying to learn skills that are, if not enjoyable to you, at least you see purpose for it. Don't just like learn a skill just because for this one particular company. Learn a skill because you see that you can build your career in this particular way. And learning skills is not always enjoyable, but it's more so about, think about the purpose, right? So yeah, but you could do that. And then the other question I saw was from Lily. She said, please, does that mean for every company applied, a different CV must be crafted to reflect the job description? That is a great question. Great question. And the answer is no. So let me say this. That's a very good question. I think for, let's say that you want to be a security engineer, right? As you're applying for different jobs at different companies, you're going to, regardless of the company being different, you're going to see some keywords that will always like appear, whether it's a skill set or a language or something like that. So actually, let me talk more so about data science. I'll use data science as an example because I've done some data science work. If I was applying for a data scientist role and I was looking at data scientist positions at different companies, some of the keywords or like words I imagine will pop up could be something like different types of languages, whether it's like Python or SQL or R, right? Or it could be a skill set, like a type of skill. So like analysis or what's another one? Or data cleanup or something like that. Or it could be a type of platform. So it could be maybe AWS or Google Cloud or something like that. So you do not have to write a different CV for every job that you apply for. That's too much work. But what you should do is, if you're applying for a particular type of position, as you look at these different job descriptions, you should see what type of words pop out more and more. And that gives you direction of like skills you should learn. Because if you're seeing that type of skill that's being asked in a job description, you should learn that skill. Or, and also on top of that, you should add those keywords to your CV, right? So that when you apply for different, let's say data scientist roles, and you have those same keywords, it pops out in two different ways. It'll pop out from the ATS, which is the applicant tracking system. And it'll also pop out when the recruiter looks at it, because they'll see that there are keywords in your CV that are similar to the keywords in the job description, right? But that's a very good question. So the answer is no, do not write a different CV for every job. All right, so one more question and then I'll continue. So skills and a certificate, which is regarded higher when searching for jobs? That's also a good question. That's from Pascal. No problem, Lily. Yeah, so that's from Pascal. So good question. So skills and a certificate, which is regarded higher when searching for jobs? And the answer is that it depends. I'm not as savvy in the security space, but as I think about my colleagues that I used to work with, they would have a lot of different certifications. And I know that those certifications are helpful for them elevating themselves higher and higher. In my space, or when I was like doing data science work as a data scientist, skills were beneficial. You didn't really need a certification. So it varies, right? I think a good way of doing that is just like doing research online for that particular position. And I think another great way is informational interviews. So just talking to someone that works in that type of job that you're interested in and asking them which matters more, skills in this case or certifications. Yeah, but I think that's a good question. So the answer is that it depends, right? It depends. All right. No problem. All right, so part 3 is us, right? Now, the idea is that you're taking who you are as a person, your personality, your passion, and you want to take what you know about the company and what they're trying to achieve and bring that together. What is that overlap, right? How can you guys combine together? And the way to do that is to talk about impact. And then impact is very key when it comes to your CV, because you don't want to just write stuff on your CV saying, I did ABC. No, you want to talk about, sure, I did ABC that led to DEF, right? And if that didn't happen, then GHI would have like happened as a result. So you want to talk about what you, not just what you did, but what came out of that. So it's about impact. And there are different ways to show impact, right? So I think when people write their CVs, they think that they should be humble, and you shouldn't be humble. You don't have to be a bragger, but you should be vocal about what you've done. You guys have done interesting things. So talk about that. Be proud of your accomplishments. So make sure you push that forward. And connecting the dots, something that I think, who was that? I think it was Ezra, that he mentioned earlier about like conducting background research on companies that you're interested in. That's a very good point, Ezra. You want to connect the dots. It's going back to thinking about the problems that they're dealing with, the company that you're interested in, your skill set, find different ways to reflect that in the CV if you can. If not, do that in the interview process. And then the last thing here, let's talk about us, is you're going to take your action, the different things that you've done within your career, and whether an internship or a project or whatever, and then talk about the result. And that goes back to that storytelling format that we were talking about earlier, the star format. So we're focusing on the A and the R, the action, the result. So here are some good ways that actually, you know what? I'm gonna take a quick pause. So before I continue, what I'm gonna do is we actually have a survey, right? So I would like for you guys to fill out the survey. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a break. Let's say a 5-minute break. If you guys can fill out this survey, and then after 5 minutes, we can continue. The survey is very short. It'll probably take like less than a minute. Then we'll continue. We'll go through the rest of the presentation, and then we'll do the live revision of the resume. So how's that sound? Let me get like a thumbs up from you guys, or a yes in the chat. All right, awesome. All right, so Elvis, I saw you had a question. Hold that question and ask me again after the 5-minute break, and then we'll continue, okay? All right. Okay, so I don't think you guys have the survey. I do, or
Mario, the link is going to be provided in the WhatsApp platform. So guys, please check the WhatsApp platform.
Okay.
The survey link is going to be posted over there.
All right, great. Thank you, Josephine.
So guys, as you are trying to fill the survey, just remember that those who stay throughout the webinar are going to get some gifts from us. Mario is ready to do 5 reviews for the lucky 5 on Zoom. So what it means is that the terms and conditions are: 1, you have to be a student; 2, you need to stay through the webinar till the end. That is when you get it. So what you're going to get is he's going to review your CV at the same time, revise it for you. So you can choose whether you want your LinkedIn to be tweaked, to be reviewed and tweaked, or your CV to be reviewed and tweaked as well. Those on YouTube, we haven't forgotten you guys. You guys rock. You also have 5 slots as well. So the lucky 5 are going to have their CVs and then their LinkedIn reviewed. So whichever one you decide. So make sure that you stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. All right. Have a nice time, guys.
Please send a thumbs up so we know that you've seen the link on the WhatsApp platform.
All right, so you know what? I'm seeing within the comments that some really good feedback about the survey. So to, like, for example, to David's point, you're right. Fully or part-time employed workers who want to change a career job should have to be considered as well. Totally agree with you. So the content here in the presentation is relevant to you. You're right. The survey was not directed specifically to people like yourself. So my apologies for that. And don't feel like you're being forgotten. This content is also for you as well. Let's see what else we see. I think I saw another interesting comment was, where does the experience fit in? All right, so David, you're saying, where does the experience fit in? Can you elaborate, please? I don't think I understand your question. Huh, wait, okay. So another issue with the survey. All right, David, I'll come back to your question. Let me just figure this out with the survey. Let me try something. All right. So I think after clicking, okay, and which of the parts you talk about your work experience? Well, you're pretty much talking about your work experience, like within those bullet points. So that action result. So like that combination of those two, that is your work experience that you're talking about. Let me know if I answered your question. If not, just feel free to send a comment in. Okay, so for everyone that filled out the survey, I think, yeah, you click get link, and that should fill that should submit it, Lily, to your question. Okay, which of these platforms has the link? I can't find it. All right, so Educate Africa, they submitted the link into the chat, so you should have it there. Then as you fill it, when you get to the end, you get to get link, then you just click that and that should submit it. Okay, so question from Richmond. Sir, kindly elaborate on the diversity of the tech field, say pure and applied computing. Okay, it's a good question. So I don't know too much about pure and applied computing. I will say that generally for the tech field, there is not a lot of diversity, especially amongst like people of African origin and Caribbean origin. I'd say like majority of the tech field, like if I think about the US and probably in Europe as well, it's like mostly white. Then probably after that would be like Southeast Asian, so like Indian, Pakistani. Regardless of that, it doesn't matter. I think what matters is if you truly go into a space that you really like this work and you feel like this is a place that you can grow, then you should go for it. So I mean, obviously there's advantage of doing tech in Ghana because majority of people are Black, so they're people just like yourself, which is great. But if you're thinking about making that move outside, don't let the diversity impact influence you otherwise. All right, so, oh yeah, so Elvis, yeah, you had this question earlier. All right, so please, does that action and results apply to entry-level jobs or where the applicant has no experience? No, so look, this format, I've been working for the past 12 years. I've been using this format. So this is a format you're going to use for the rest of your career, unless there is a big change when it comes to a CV. So it doesn't matter whether you're entry level, it doesn't matter whether you've been working for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years more. This format is for everyone. So the thing about this CV presentation is you can come back to this some years later and use the same thing as well. But it's a good question. Yeah. All right. So how's everyone feeling about this? Okay, one last question. All right. Sir, can you please elaborate on how mathematics is related to tech? Yeah, that's a good question. So especially in data science, which involves machine learning and involves like analyzing data, just finding different ways of analyzing data. Math is important, whether it's from a statistics standpoint. There is a linear algebra element to machine learning, with which I'll be honest with you, I don't know that particular part, but math is definitely important in tech. I think for like software development, math is important there as well, just like finding different ways of using math to like write algorithms. Yeah, so math is important, but you don't have to be a math whiz to be in tech, because you could be someone that is like a software developer and you might not use math that much, or you could be a position like a product manager or a UX UI designer, which also doesn't use math that much. So it is relevant in tech, but it's not necessary to know math or to be great in math. Okay, so one last question before we continue. So, all right, this is a good question from David. I appreciate this. All right, so should the CV be brief or in detail, since they weed out lots of the CVs? That's a good question. So I will say this. I think if you are in since majority of people here are young in their career, then your CV should be honestly one page. I think if someone is maybe, look, I've been working for over like 12 years, and my CV is like 1.5. So if my CV is 1.5, then therefore your CV should be 1. It is not, I'm not trying to discredit you, but I'm just saying that keep it as brief. Yeah, keep it brief, keep it, be thorough, but keep it brief. So yeah, make it a page. I would say they weed out CVs more so because of the content than the pages, but you bring up a good point. You still want to keep it short as well. Don't go over 2 pages for the sake of it. All right, no problem. And then Kwame had a question. Does internship count as experience? Yes, definitely. I would say that, especially since majority, let me answer for everyone. So if you're in university, internship experience counts because you probably don't have a lot of work experience, I imagine. So yes, use your internship experience. If you are like me, you're in the work space, or you're in the work industry and you're trying to change to a new job, and let's say you've been working for some years, unless you really don't have a lot of other relevant experience, don't include internship experience. So once again, if you're in university and you don't have a lot of work experience, then include internship experience. If you don't, and you're like me, then don't include internship experience. Okay. All right. So thumbs up. Is everyone good? All right. One last question. Okay. All right. From King. Which section does volunteering fall in writing the CV? So you can actually make that's a good question. You can actually make a section called volunteering if you have like multiple. If you don't, you can make maybe a space and call it extracurricular activities, and then include your volunteering work there. So it's possible to do that. Okay. All right. So you guys, I'm going to continue. Please hold the questions. I'll definitely answer more questions at the end. Happy to do that. Okay. All right. So let me share my screen again. Let me know if you guys can see it. Okay. Josephine, if you don't mind, can you give me access to share?
Yes, please. I'll do that right away.
Okay, thank you.
You have access now, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me move this out the way. Okay, cool. All right, so going back to where we were. So part 1 was about you. Part 2 is about them. And part 3 is us, right? So where we ended was, and I know I use resume here, so CV, same thing. So formatting your CV, bullet points, action and result, which comes from the storytelling format that we have, the STAR method, situation, task, action, and result. That storytelling format you can use in interviews, but for the sake of the CV, we're focusing on just the last 2, right? Okay, now, here's an example of a resume from a cybersecurity engineer and how they wrote the different bullet points. We're going to go through this and show and see how they did things well. Now, if it's highlighted pink, that means that it's action. And if it's highlighted green, then that means it's result. Now, something I'm going to mention before of different ways of showing impact. These 3 ways I'm going to tell you are not the only ways, but these are good ways of showing impact. One way of showing impact is numbers. And by numbers, it's, let's say you help 20 people, you help 30 people, you did orientation for 1 person, you fixed 50 computers, you reduce the cost by 40%, you increase the productivity by 50%. Numbers is a good way of showing impact. The second way of showing impact is first. And what I mean by first is being the first to do something. So for example, if you worked in a job and let's say you created a new program for either for your school, for your university, or for an internship or whatever, if you're the first person to create this program, or this program something like that never existed before, that's a good way of showing impact. That means that you're pushing the boundaries of the institution that you're working for, and you took them to another level. So first, that's what I mean by first, like being the first to do something, right? And another way of showing impact is people. And what I mean by people is, if you did work and let's say your work impacted, let's say the Minister of Finance in Ghana, or helped them in that type of way, that is a high level position. If you work with people like that, talk about them, right? So, or if you did something for the president of a company, or the vice president, or your prince, or your counselor, or whatever, mention these people. So those are three, not the only ways, but those are three ways of showing impact: numbers, first, and people. Now, don't think that because you work a job or an internship, that if you don't use those three, your bullet points is not impactful. Don't think that way. But I will say, though, is that I would focus on numbers and try to use numbers as much as possible. And the good reason why is because although majority of you are applying for tech roles, the recruiter is not always the person that really knows every element about your tech field, whether it's in cybersecurity or UX, UI design, or pen testing, doesn't matter, right? But numbers is helpful, even for me, right? So I'm not in cybersecurity, but when I see numbers, like in this case, let's focus on the first bullet point. So the action here is that this person implemented a multi-layer security system for the institution, right? That was their action. And what came because of that action? So when they did that action, it reduced malware risk by 40% and helped increase the number of customers. I might not know how to deal with malware risk, but 40% is a significant number. So so it gives me context using numbers, which is a way of showing impact. So try to use numbers as much as you can. And there are definitely ways around it that you might not be able to do so, but we can talk about that. So I imagine there might be some questions. Let's hold off on it. And let me just go through these two, and then I'll answer questions. And then we'll do the live CV revision. So this is a good way of doing that. So they use the 40%. That's a good way of showing numbers, right? All right, let's look at the second one. So applied advanced patch management system. That's the action that they took. It's very detailed. It's to the point. It's native. It's related to cybersecurity. And then the impact. So what's the impact? What's the result? So for 2,500 desktop computer / workstations and 300 plus servers. That's a significant number, but that gives us context of what this person did and how it impacted the company that they're working for. So I imagine that all these different computers or work group is for all their staff. So this helps to keep the place running. I can get the impact from that, the result from that, because this part is here. If it was just applied advanced patch management system, I wouldn't get it, right? I wouldn't understand it. So this is a good way of doing it. All right, so the third one, right? All right, so it's a long one, but it's good. All right, so developed and implemented effective cybersecurity plans to maintain the security of computer files against unauthorized modification, destruction, and disclosure. Long action, but understand. Gaining a 99% rate on overall company data security. That's the result right there. Because they're able to develop and implement these cybersecurity plans, they are able to greatly improve, or at least keep a high standard for the data security of their company. So this is a good way of using action and result for your tech CV. All right, so made a mistake here. I didn't highlight this. Actually, no, I did this for a reason. Yeah, so here's another example for an information security analyst, right? Now, in this case, this first bullet point is probably shouldn't have included it. It's not a good example of something that you should have on your CV. And I'll tell you why. Because although I get some information about this person, they serve as a subject matter expert for information security with, such and such and such. Okay. And yeah, it starts with a verb. So that is an action, right? But I don't know what the impact is. And I don't know how that relates to the company. So if you have something like this bullet point, save it for your either your objective on your CV, or save it for your LinkedIn profile, or save it for when you actually talk with a recruiter or the hiring manager and you have that interview with them. Save that type of material, right? Now, here is a good example of another action result. So once again, action in pink, result in green. So excuse the typo. Administered 10 Windows servers and WAN, right? LANWAN. All right, fine. So that's a good action. And then this was across 7 branches. So in this case, they've administered these servers across these particular branches. So it impacted these 7 different departments of JP Morgan Chase. Maybe another way to actually enhance it could be, okay, if they administer these 10 Windows servers across these 7 branches, what does it enable these branches to do now? Maybe it enables them to communicate between each other or something like that. So that could be a way that this could be made better, but it still gets the job done. And then the last one, here's a good example of maybe numbers aren't always there for you. And that's okay too, because you can still show impact. So in this case, the action is train and mentor new network analysts. It's action, right? So even if it's just one, that's still relevant because you're giving back and you're helping with your colleagues' professional development. So this is good. So train and mentor new network analysts. And then the result is on network infrastructure and troubleshooting. So that's the impact. So the result is you're training this particular colleague, you're mentoring them so that they're able to have this particular new knowledge. So this is the way that you want to write your CV. You want to not talk about your responsibilities or this and that. You want to think about, okay, I have this skill set, I can use it in these different ways. And because of that, because I've used it in these different ways for these different problems, these good results came out of it. That's how you write your CV effectively. That's how you're able to grasp people and understand how valuable you would be to the company you're applying for if they hire you. Okay, so let me stop for a second. Any questions? Okay, I got a lot of questions. All right, let's see. All right, first one, if you are applying to a master's degree, which requires you to submit a CV, should it be brief or detailed? I think that's the one that I might have answered similarly. Yeah, it depends on your career, the longer you've been in. So I imagine you guys are all young. So keep it brief and keep it to a page. Okay. Let's see. One of our viewers from YouTube wants to find out if design CVs count. Okay, Josephine, quick question. By design CV, are we talking about a CV where it's like colorful? Is that what they mean?
I think so.
Okay, so that's yeah. So and then if this doesn't answer the question, whoever like submitted this, just let me know. So keep your CV non-colorful. Don't go for being decorative for a couple of reasons. One is when you apply for jobs, they use this like ATS, the applicant tracking system. Sometimes it might not read these CVs that have like a bunch of like pictures and like icons and things like that on your CV. Just keep it clean and keep it very readable. And you can do that just keeping it black and white, just using a clean font. So don't make a design. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Another thing too is that if the recruiter prints out the CV and they see it, unless it maybe sometimes it could be something like maybe design related, like maybe it's someone that's going to work as a graphic designer, that's possible. But I think for most tech jobs, don't do that. Okay. All right. So another question is, how do you measure from a manual? How do you measure the points highlighted in green? How do you measure the numbers? How do you measure numbers? So I think it depends. And then if I don't answer your question properly, just let me know. If you're putting in numbers, I mean, it depends on the experience or the job that you had. So like if you worked with 10 people, so if you worked with 10 people or you did orientation for 10 people at your company, you just put down that 10. If you're working in cybersecurity and let's say you're tracking the logs of all the computers in your organization, and let's say it's like 100 computers, you just put in the 100. For percentages, like I think it depends on what you were doing. So let's say if you were in finance and you were tracking the budget of your company and you're able to reduce the costs, by that you can reduce the costs. If you're able to reduce the cost, you can track the cost from last year comparison this year, and that'll give you your percentage. So I'm not sure if I fully answered your question, but you know, it does take a little bit of effort, but just focus mainly on like the type of impact you made to, I'm not sure if I answered your question fully. So if I didn't, just let me know. All right, so, oh yeah, okay. So from Lily, can we use OKRs to measure the numbers? Yeah, you could. It depends on the company you're working for, but yeah, I feel like you could. Whether the company has their own OKRs that you have access to, or if you create your own OKRs for as well, like personally, yeah, you can use OKRs. David said, can't see the images of what was talked about. Okay, hold on a second. Oh, you know what? All right, so let me ask. All right, so this is okay. Guys, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Actually, no, give me like a notification. Were people able to see my presentation? Like see like the words, the bullet points? Tell me a yes or no. If it's a no, that can go back to it and go through that again. That's not a problem. But I want to make sure that you guys are able to see it. So wait, so people, yes, we're able to see it. Okay, good. Okay, that's good. All right. Okay, cool. All right, let me go back to answering the questions. Let me see. Let me go back to the top. Where was I before? Okay. All right, so from Ike, sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right, or EK. Is it safe to add a skill which isn't necessarily related to the tech world? That is a good question. Yes, you definitely should. Just because you're in the tech space, don't feel like other skills aren't relevant. So soft skills are very relevant. They're relevant everywhere. So soft skills like your communication, your emotional intelligence, your mentoring, even if it's not related to tech, maybe something finance or something. Yeah, no, feel free to add it. If there's an overlap, yes, for sure, definitely add it. So yes, add those skills. Okay, this is a good one. So from Kojo, what would be a total turnoff for a recruiter when viewing your CV? I think it's different things. So typos, like not, maybe you have a period at the end of some of your sentences and not for others. Misspellings, grammatical errors, writing too much. What else? A CV that's not at all related to the job that you're applying for. A CV that has different types of fonts. A CV that is not reflective of who you are. But yeah, I think those are some of the big things. So it's a combination of different things. Just make sure it's clean, it's to the point, and it's reflective of who you are. Yeah, that's a good question. All right, so another one. Okay, this is a contribution from Richmond. So pure computing involves applying computer concept to gain employment with the sphere of computing, say it engineer. Okay, applied computing deals with applied theories in other fields, say math, law, health, and many more. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Richmond. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so from King, what are the main points to include? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, something like the headers. Example is education, work experience, volunteering, something like that. What are the main ones to state in the CV? That is a good question. All right, so I would say the consistent ones, and let me type them out here. Let me do everyone. So if I would just start from the top, I would say the first one is like name, and location. Okay. So actually, sorry, I made a mistake. So name, contact. Actually, no, this, let me, to type it out might be too much. Let me just say it. All right. So first section I would say would be name, contact information, and location. So by name, so your name, your contact information, so your phone number and your email address. And if you have a professional website, put that at the top. If you want to put in your LinkedIn profile link, you can do that as well. If you, what else is there? If you have like some social media links, like maybe if you have like a GitHub or something like that, you can put that up top. That should be your top section. Now, this one is debatable. I used to have this particular section, but I don't. So the next section will be objective. So objective is, or actually, no, let's say summary. So summary is like a short paragraph that talks about you and your experience. It's like a short, brief segment about your experience. I used to have a summary. I took it off. I don't use that anymore. There's some people that have that on their CV. You don't need it, but it's fine if you do. So that'll be the next section. So name. So first section is name, contact information, and location. Second one is your objective. You want to include, you don't have to. If you're in, then after that would be your work experience. So your internships, your job experience, all that type of stuff. After that can be, actually, no, sorry, I take it back. Sorry, let me backtrack. After your summary, if you do include that, include your technical skills. So the different languages you know, the different platforms you know, that's your technical skills. Then from there, do your work experience. So all different jobs that you've had or internships, and then what you did for each one. After that, have your education, and then after that, have your extracurricular activities or volunteering. So that's one way of doing that. Okay. That's a good question. All right, so let me see. Going back to, let's make sure I get everyone. All right. From Armstrong, how would you capture your job roles in situations where you get, when you get promoted within the job function? Example, network specialist to technical manager within the same network support function. So Armstrong, you can include that in the same section for that particular job, and just like have a try to think of a good way of showing this. Okay, let me do this. Let me pull out my resume, and this would be a good way. 1 second. All right, I'm gonna open a Word version of my resume to use as an example. Okay, all right. So let me make sure I share my screen. Okay, and then everyone can see my screen, right? I feel like you guys can. Let's make sure. Okay, I think you guys can see my screen. All right, cool. So to that question, so one way of doing that, so if you look at, let's do this one, right? So time worked I worked in this job, make it bigger. Okay, cool. All right, so if you want to talk about, let's say, a job that you got promoted in, let's say that this is the organization, this one highlighted here, right? So what I can do is I could copy. So I have my company, the title, the job title I had there, the city, and then the time that I worked there, right? So what I could do is I could do this, and I could just copy these two. All right, and I'm going to delete this. Actually, wait. So I'll take it back to here and bring this down. Wait, That's it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this back. Yeah, like the, oh shoot, Josie. Why is this doing that? Okay, there we go. All right, cool. So this is what I can do. So let's say this is like a different. So let's say this is a different title. Let's say it's just like research assistant. And let's say I worked there from, let's say a different date. Let's say it was like from 2010 to January 2011, right? I was in this, you know, or actually, no, let's do August 2011. And we'll push this all the way to the end. So I have that, and I have this. Let's say this is just a different one, a different bullet point. Let's just say it's like co-authored XYZ, right? That's how you can show a promotion. So this shows, okay, when he was working in this company, the one that's highlighted here, he had this title, he did these different things for this particular period of time. Then he or she got promoted. And when they got promoted, they had this new title, same company, but these different things they're doing. So that's a way of doing that, right? That's a way of showing promotion within the same position. Okay. All right, let me go back to the questions. Can you add that you've established? Yeah, you could add that you established your own business. As long as it's relevant to the, that's from Eugene, sorry about that. That's from Eugene. As long as it's relevant to the job that you're applying for, yes, you could definitely do that. All right. What are the most, from Chesterfield, what are the most well-known soft skills employers, companies can look out for in the position? Good question. So your communication, your leadership, your means of like training others, your empathy. I think ways of showing empathy could be through your volunteer work, through your mentoring, through doing stuff maybe related to diversity and inclusion. So those are ways that you can show. Those are some of the most well-known soft skills, I think. But I think communication is probably the biggest for me. All right. So from Josephine, how do I write a good CV if I don't have much experience? Okay. So that's a good question. That's a tough one. I think so. Internships is definitely one way. If it can't be internships and you're still in school, you can talk about projects that you've worked on in school, maybe for a class or a course that you've taken, or side projects. You could also talk about so side projects that you've done outside of school. Maybe it's related to a course, or if it's just a particular course that you've taken online through an online web, through a website, you can talk about that type of material as well. I think recruiters are mindful if you're coming straight out of university, if you don't have a lot of experience, but it doesn't mean that there isn't anything for you to write about. You can find ways to do so. You just have to be creative and be what's the word? Be creative and be and take initiative, right? But you can definitely do that. All right, so question from Kojo. Please, in the About Me section, what will be the most appropriate information to put there? In the About Me section, I would make it a short, I would talk about your enthusiasm, or like, I'll talk about your enthusiasm of the space that you're in, like using like a phrase to relay that, and then talk about like some really strong skills that you have, like a couple of skills that you really have, and then also talk about what type of industry or company you're interested in working for. That's something you can put in the About Me section. All right, so let me see if okay, so a question from Lily. As a fresh graduate, is it necessary to include educational background from, no. If you're a fresh graduate, you don't have to include junior high school. You can include a tertiary education. That's fine. All right, so another question from a viewer on YouTube. Is it good to include a short profile about yourself in your CV, and how many bullet points are required for this? That is optional. You don't have to, that could be like your summary section. And then in terms of, don't do it like bullet points, make it like a paragraph, and then make it just like no more than 4 sentences, or I mean 4 lines in the paragraph. All right. And then what else? From David, how do you create a CV to apply for a different position in your current organization? So that's where you want to look at that job description, see if there's overlap from that job description in your CV. If there is overlap, then you're good. If there's not overlap, then you want to take elements from that CV, from that job description and put it into your CV. But make sure that you actually fit those particular skills. So, or you have the ability to fit those particular things that they're asking for in the job description. But yeah, it's possible to do that. All right, and another question is, what is the required size of font to use on a CV? That's a good question. It depends. So I think for this one in particular, let me share my screen again. For my CV, I think I use 10.5, but I got 2 pages and I'm writing like a little bit more. So I think between 10.5 to 12 is a good font size, right? Yeah, so 12.5 to, so yeah, looking at my font here, it's 12, this is 10.5. So sorry, so I say like 10.5, 10, between 10 to 12 is a good font size, I would say. All right, let me see if there are any more questions. Let's see. I talk about the font. Oh, which section contains the soft skills? All right, so that's from Emanuela. Those skills that should be throughout your resume. There's not a particular section for that, right? You can find different ways of writing that. So for example, if you look at my CV here, I talk about, I say like manage 2 product managers and 1 data analyst regarding project delivery and career development. So in that case, I'm helping them with their career development. So the idea is that I'm showing ways of like building their professional development. So that could be a way of like showing emotional intelligence. That's a way of showing a soft skill, but you don't need a distinct section for soft skills. Yep. All right. And then let's see. Yeah. So here from your boy, what is the difference between a CV and a resume? They're interchangeable. They're pretty much the same. I think CV is just like more British and then like resume is American. But if I use resume and CV interchangeably, I mean the same thing. All right. So any more questions? If not, okay. So this is where we get really interactive. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to close this out, bring this up. So what we're going to do next is, I don't know if Mary Asamoah is still here, but she graciously shared with us her CV, right? Unfortunately, it's not a Word version, so I can't make live edits. But what I want to do is, oh, Mary, you are here. All right, great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing your CV with us. Really appreciate it. Also, as we go through your CV, don't feel as if I'm attacking you. I think you're very brave for, oh, you did share it. Okay, I appreciate you. All right, let me pull that out. Thank you, Mary. All right, so let me pull out the Word document version of the CV. Okay, great. All right, awesome. All right, so we're gonna do a live, this is gonna be the end of our presentation. We're gonna do a live revision of the CV. We might, for time's sake, we might be able to go through everything. But Mary, definitely connect with me offline. You have my email address, so I can like help you with that. But we'll just go through some different sections. All right, so I believe everyone can see my screen. That's good. All right, so I want to make this interactive, and we're not here to attack Mary. First off, we're going to be appreciative of Mary for her sharing her CV with us. Really appreciate that. But I want everyone to think about the different things that they learned in the presentation. and let's try to apply it to Mary's CV and how we can make revisions, right? There are going to be some elements that I didn't talk about in terms of like formatting, which are some ways to make some particular sections pop out more than others, but we'll go through that. So from a first glance, just from a first glance, generally, just looking at this CV, what are some things that we like about the CV? So I want you guys to put comments in and I'll read them out. I'll read some of the comments out. So looking at the CV, what are some of the things that when you first see it, you like about the CV? And put them in the chat section. If you guys don't see anything that you like, then mention that as well. Well, actually, yeah. Well formatted, good. There we go. It's brief and well structured. I agree. It's it's one page. Yep. Bullet points, great. Yep. Brief but detailed, very good. Okay. What else? Okay, so Simon, hold that thought. We'll get to that. All right, what else? Any additional points that we like about the CV? No executive summary. I agree. That's personal standpoint. Yep. The name. Okay, Andrew, that's a good point. Let's hold up on that. I agree with you. All right, it's well organized. All right. No achievement at the experience. Okay, cool. All right, so let's make a shift into things that there could be work on. So like Andrew's mentioned, the name font size should be increased. Definitely the name should be bigger, sure. No achievement at the experience. Let's talk about things that we can do to fix it. Like looking at this, no objectives. Okay, yep. Anything else? The education can be worked on, agreed. Anything else? Font size. Okay. Yep. Agree with that too. All right. So what we're going to do here, and this actually makes it easier. All right. So definitely starting from the top, because it's all about, it really is about appearance and then content. So you want to make sure that the formatting is good. So key thing I'll say here is that we can definitely make it bigger. So especially for the name, right? We also kind of want to maybe put this into a header. Yes, also good point, Emmanuel. No skills listed. Yes. All right, so let's see. Let's do a header. Forgot how to do this. Where is it? Header. Oh, it's layout. No. Oh, did I just miss it? Oh, here we go. Okay. And in the middle. Okay, cool. Then we're gonna put this aside. Okay. Let's go put this here for starter and then copy this in. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so we got Mary's name here. We're gonna make this big. 14 is fine. And we have a lot of real estate that is not being used. Like there's a lot of spaces in between. So if you want, you can put your full address here. Yeah, do not add an image to the CV. Don't do that. Yeah, good question. And then what's the other question? Can we also apply it to a field? Can we also apply it to a field that we are interested in to our CV that we're about to learn? Maybe in extracurricular activities, you could add like some of the courses that you're taking as maybe in a different field, but to put it generally in the CV, I wouldn't do that. If it's not relevant to the position, don't add it. But if it's something like you're passionate about, some people put their hobbies on their CV, but that's way towards the end. Like for the main part of CV, don't have to add like another course or something else you're going to learn that it's not relevant to the CV. I mean, that's not relevant to the job you're applying for. All right, so back to the CV. Okay, so I personally am of the take. I'm going to hold on questions for a second. I'll get back to them, but I'm personally the type of person that where I wouldn't really put it in my full address. You can if you want to, but I'll just leave it here. I'm going to do something here instead. So I'm going to like, we got Mary's address, we have her email address, we have her number, and then we have her LinkedIn profile. So those are 4 different sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and add them here this way. And then here, take this, add it this way. All right. So that's one way of adding it. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of this one because we don't need this. All right. Now, with this one in particular, Mary, what I would recommend for your CV is for your LinkedIn profile, there's a way to edit your link so that you don't have the number at the end and it has just your name. If you have questions on that, feel free to email me. I could show you like how to do that. But then this doesn't look as good. What you could do, actually, instead that might be better, is you could do like, oh, a second, sorry. You can do change your LinkedIn URL to have just your name. Or what you can do instead is you could just have like the word LinkedIn profile and then turn that into a hyperlink, which is a link to your profile, if that makes sense. So you can do that instead. All right, so we got that. Maybe we can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so something like that, right? So that works. So you have your address, you have the email address, you have the phone number, and then you have the LinkedIn profile. And then to make this uniform, I'll get rid of this boundary line. Yeah, so that's all clean. So you have this, and it's all centered. All right, that's good. All right. So education, right? So since Mary is still in university, it's fine if education is at the top. If Mary wasn't in, or like was like some years away, I would say like education should be below. Even though Mary is still in university too, that's also fine to have the CV, to have the education at the end too. There's nothing wrong with that as well. So now the thing about this is this is taking away space that could be used. So what I would do instead is just gonna copy mine for a second, just because I have the formatting. So I would, all right, that's too big. So make this smaller. Wait, what size is this? This is 9. Okay, so that's 9. Makes 11. Makes 11. Why is it? Oh, let me change the margin. Let's see. Okay. Control C. Okay, let me just get rid of this. Huh, why is it doing that? All right. Okay, there we go. All right. All right, so here, Kwame Nkrumah. All right, so we got that. Okay. So city, okay, cool. And then Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, located in Kumasi. So I'm gonna add this, take it to the end. So this is a form that I think it's helpful to use for education. So you have your school, you have where the school is located, right? Then the next sentence, the one at the bottom, is going to be what you're studying. So you're doing a B. Oh, let's see. BSc and materials engineering. Okay, there we go. And then you're there from Mary. When did you start school or going to tech? When was that? So I'll just put in a month. I'll say September. Yeah, I know. Which month? January. Thank you. Okay. Okay, cool. So, and this is all the same font. We don't want that. I mean, it's too big. So make this all even. Okay. Now, what I'll do is, since this is a school, I'll leave that in bold. I'm going to take this one. This is just for aesthetic, just for the aesthetic. I'm going to make this one not bold. So that's cool. So that's not bold. I'm going to make the date not bold as well. Okay. And then because this is your degree, the degree that you're working towards, I'm going to make that in italics, right? So there we go. So that's the way to do education. Now, in this case here, you have your good academic standing, second class. So what you could do here instead is you can put like a bullet point. Oh, why is it doing this? 1 second. Present. Okay. So you can put a bullet point here, and you can say something like academic standing, second class. All right. And then all right, cool. And then because this is like a big space here, let's get rid of that space. Paragraph. Get rid of the space between, make a single. Okay, cool. So that's how you can do your education. Now, I know we're pressing towards time, so let's go through one bullet point together, and then Mary, I'll help you with this version as well later on. All right, so let's go to work and leadership experience. So let's make this work experience, because in these different positions, you've also shown leadership. So we'll just leave it a work experience. All right. So the big thing I say here is like the way that we've done our education, where you have the school, the location, your degree, and your the dates. You can use the same format for your work experience as well. So what I mean by that is, in this case, if I was to take this one, oh, why is it not doing that? Oh, shoot, come on. All right, 1 second. Let's see. Okay. All right, so let me do this instead. Yeah. All right, so what you do instead is, all right, so if you were an Enactus for KNUS, you put this here. Okay. And then you still have your location. Put this down. Oh no, sorry, I take this back. I take this back. Sorry, my apologies. This would be the company. So this is right. So that's the company, but you're an enactus here. So we're gonna put that down. That's your position. Okay. And then we have your location here. And then this is from February 2021 to present. So we changed that. Okay. Okay, cool. And then let's do one bullet point together. So we're taking this one off. All right. So in this case, you're saying that you produced a presentation for, okay. Produce a presentation for Project Basima. And you talk about what Basima is. Okay, educational project that seeks to make quality and higher education easy and accessible to students in disadvantaged communities, leveraging on study centers. All right, that's a lot. And there's a way to show the impact. So it's a good project. Let's talk about ways that we can do impact. What are some of the ways that I talked about impact in the presentation? Oh, sorry. Okay, you were the career services head. Okay, gotcha. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Okay, and let me do. Okay, and then okay, so Mary, is that better? Okay, cool. All right, so if we're looking at this bullet point, what are ways that we can? All right, great, thank you. If we're looking at this bullet point, what are ways that we can make this better before I try to make some corrections to it? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Yes, good one, Armstrong. How many communities? Great point. What are some other ways? Any other ways? Percentage of people affected. Great point. Yep. What else? Anything else? All right, so we'll just work with that. All right, so Mary, you don't mind like this project Basima, like how many people do you think were impacted by this project? You can just put a number in. Okay, I rather wrote the aims. Yeah, you wrote the aims, but like so for this particular project that you're working on, do you know how many people are going to benefit from it? All right, so I was going to make some hypothetical numbers, right, and then we can like come back to correct it. So produce a presentation for community project close to 20. Okay, cool. All right. So all right, so let me try this instead. Okay, so this is the other one. This is the same thing, but I'm going to do. And would you say that let me ask another question. Would you say that you created this project or that you just led this project? And you can put your answer in the chat. Yep. Yep. I agree. All right. So you know what, Mary, let's do this. I will work. You're part of it. You didn't create it. Okay. No problem. Mary, you know what? I will work with you offline on this. And I know we're definitely over time. So I want to say thank you all for those that stayed throughout it. And for those that even, joined initially and then had to drop off. Thank you so much for joining this presentation. And thank you, EDUC8, for the opportunity. And I look forward to talking with you guys again in the future. EDUC8AFRICA will be able to get back to select the lucky few where I'll be able to help with their CV revision and their LinkedIn profile. So they'll get back with that information. But thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you too, Mario. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. We really had a very amazing time. We learned so much. Thank you so much once again. So regarding our lucky winners for today's webinar, it would be shared with you by our own CEO. She would announce the lucky winners shortly. So please don't be in a hurry to go off. Just give us about 5 minutes and then you would hear the lucky winners.
Okay. Guys, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello.
please. We can.
Oh, okay, all right. So for you, okay. So
yes,
for
we can
YouTube,
hear you, please. They are not allowed to unmute, so that.
Okay, all right, okay. So on YouTube, we have Jenny Love, Richard Corte, Bernard Ephraim, Isaac Obo Ephraim. Wow, 2 Ephraims, and then Senam Radio. But one important thing is that you've got to be a student. So immediately we are done, please share your email with us. We will send you an email as well. So guys on YouTube, these are the people that got were the lucky winners to get the review and the revision. Then for Zoom, well, we have Lily Nkrumah, Simon O'Day, Israel Yendu, Michelle Opara. And then the last person is Bright Amate. So guys, if you know, as I said earlier on, if you know that you're not a student, then you are not eligible for this, okay? And if you are not following us, you're not also eligible for it. So make sure that when you send you an email, you send us your picture, you send us your ID card, valid ID card as well, so that we can confirm that you're truly a student, okay? So if you know that you're not a student, you might as well let us know now, okay? All right. Congratulations to the winners. Thank you, Josephine.
Thank you, Madam Alex. So officially, we call it a day. Thank you all so much for making time to join us. And we'll see you again for our next webinar series. Please have a good night.